So we're in a bit of a, so not too loud. Is that too loud? Not so too loud. Well, it is a little too loud. Hold on a sec. Test, 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 test. Okay. Well, this is a good thing. We are, I'm saying, a little in transition. We've got the, so I'm going to go live here this evening because we've been doing that for years. But this is, in my mind, a little transition. We're shifting, I think, for, especially on Wednesdays, to a greater need for meditation. This service has always been 15 minutes of meditation, holy silence, followed by Eucharist and laying on of hands. And I think at least for the short term, because there's, I think, I'm assuming somewhat, but more interest right now in meditation and how that works and how we can do that than in the service. So I'm not going to throw the baby, as they say, out with the bathwater. But at least as we did last Wednesday, and for tonight, this Wednesday, I want to focus on just offering a few, helpful bits of instruction for what meditation is. So, with that little bit of an intro, the one thing I sought to emphasize last Wednesday, in an effort to, I think, reframe meditation as not something arduous, not something painful. If there's any pain at all or challenge involved in meditation, in my opinion, it's about how you sit. If you can get yourself in a comfortable position, and I was mentioning last week that I was years ago in a Zen dojo, and before I was allowed to enter in, I sat and had a little quick tutorial with this Japanese sort of Zen instructor. And one thing he said to me that I found helpful was to imagine as you sit, and in this case, we're not on the floor, we're not on a meditation pillow, but if you, in your pews, wherever you're, or at home, if you're sitting in a chair, allow your knees to be a little lower than your rear end. And that allows your spine to more easily find itself in an upright position. And what this Zen dojo master mentioned to me is imagine a string, if you will, coming out of the top part of your head. And just if you were to pull on that, and if you were like a little, marionette or a puppet, and you pulled on that, it would kind of give you this nice sort of light feeling, and that everything else sort of just falls into place by having that string pulled. And that's kind of the position you want to be in as you sit in a relaxed fashion to meditate. It allows your arms also like ropes to just kind of fall into your lap. So you're leaning, sort of slightly forward because your knees are a little lower than your seat. Your hands are kind of dropped down, and your head, your chin is a little in. Don't get too, it should just happen naturally. If you get in the right position, you don't have to think about it. And that position should be comfortable. And as I say, meditation is about relaxing, being comfortable. With that, that's the physical part of it. The internal part of it, I think the one sort of thought I can give you that I hope is helpful and relaxing to you is think about coming back into a relationship that you've always been in. And that relationship is with this presence that comes to us when we just allow ourselves to be in this moment. And that the challenge is saying, acknowledging and not following any inclination to not be in that relationship. So if you let go, and most meditators will have some word, phrase, breathing, all of these mantras or meditation techniques are ways to say, to remind you if you drift away, to come back into what is an effortless relationship. So the relationship piece, and I'll say this and I'll end, for me makes this experience not lonely, not arduous, not painful. I feel like here's my opportunity to get, for a moment, taste the relationship of, call it God, call it presence, call it your best self. But fundamentally, though we think we're individuals, the best of who we are is fundamentally relationship. And meditation, in my opinion, is something to look forward to because it allows you to taste again what it feels like to abide in that relationship. And that's all it is. And when you feel that presence within you and you are connecting with it, it's effortless and it feels good. So if that makes sense, I will ring the bell, and it's about 5:25 now. And why don't we simply go for 10 minutes? And then I'll break and we can have a little chat time. And if there's enough time to go maybe another 5 minutes, we'll use the bulk of this half hour from 5:30 to 6 for this instruction, for a little meditation and maybe a little conversation. So if that works, find, and now, and I mentioned last time, the mantra I use is thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just say it to myself, and it kind of brings me into a place, and if I'm enjoying that space and I'm not having really any thoughts but just enjoying feeling what it feels like to be in relationship with, then I don't say it. But if I begin to kind of feel uncomfortable or drift off, and I say thank you because it does address this other. When you ever say thank you, you're not saying thank you, you're expressing yourself to another, thank you. So that's what helps me, but it could be your breathing, it could be literally a spot on the floor that allows you to say, I'm here, and I want to be in this presence, and I want to abide in this place. And so it's easy to just look at a spot on the floor to hold me here. And again, if you drift away, come back to that spot. So whatever takes you to anchor yourself here, where you're going to experience that presence, use that. So, all right. And as our routine has been for almost 20 years, I say, peace be with you, and you say, and also with you, and then I'll ring the bell and we'll go 10 minutes. So, peace be with you. Let us observe a holy silence. So allow me to be a little more gabby here. So sometimes when I'm good, I'm sometimes swimming in the pool, and I do laps. And laps are very boring. There are people beside me who sometimes put in their earplugs so that they're listening to music or to the news while they're swimming along. But as you go back and forth, it's nice to get into the water and actually feel the water. And I find that after, I don't know how many laps, I get sort of restless and think, all right, I got to get out of this pool, and my energy begins to drain. But the minute and this comes to the idea of being a witness to your life or an observer, and meditators speak about, and I mentioned last week, these two birds. There's the part of us that tastes and touches, and the other part of us that can watch that happen. And I always find that if I'm swimming and I get to that fatigue place, what's happening is I realize that my mind is trying to get out of this pool, and the minute I come back to the observer and watch that happening, I get this renewed lift of energy. It's like, oh, all right, I'm back, and I feel the water, and I've got energy, and this is okay, and I continue on my way. And in a similar way, in meditation, if there's any stress or strain or fatigue, it's that part of you wanting to get out of the pool. It's that part of you, and it's that part that's in disagreement with this small resolve you made for a moment to just be in this relationship with your best self, really, not the one that wants to take off. And so the minute you kind of recognize that and say, oh yeah, I've got to come back to that witness observer position, you should get this little lift of energy. It's like, all right. And then you're back. And invariably, you might get to that place again, and then you're back. And the idea of meditation is at least not only acknowledging that there's this witness place in you, this observer place, but that's a more favorable place to spend most of your time. You're going to be in both throughout your life, but if you can make that shift to that place and make that the more familiar place, things really begin to change in terms of how you move through the world. Lillian, at the end of our session last Wednesday, was reminding me that, you know, as much as and maybe I'm misrepresenting you, Lillian, but hold on. As much as I like to instructing people kind of use more the honey than the vinegar to say, not this is going to be hard, but no, this is going to be fun and easy. It is true that meditation, the more you do it, and there's a certain commitment to the practice, the more familiar that witness place feels to you. If you've never, meditated and you're maybe bumping around out there in life, and then you're asked to stop, that stop place was like, well, what's this? That this is so unfamiliar. And so it takes practice to realize that when you sit down and you get to that place, if you're not there very often, it's going to feel a little foreign. And it's like, well, and you're going to be quick to say, well, let's get on with, the running around. But with meditation, in time, you realize that there is this wonderful place within each of us that you can go to, which I believe is a place, and experience as a place that is not a lonely place, as I say, but it's a place where I'm with this presence, this energy, this peace. And the more meditation you do, the more that place, as I say, becomes familiar. And it's a place you kind of know. It's called mindfulness. And so you walk through your whole day, and more that place and that perspective is a place that allows you to see the world, respond to the world, but always have this little bit of reserve that allows you to bring more to your life than perhaps you've ever had before. You have more patience, you have more perspective, you have more energy, and you make better decisions. And so, all by way of saying that and we'll do 5 more minutes, it's now 10 of, but if you, all right, go back into this, and if there's any feeling like, ooh, I'm feeling, fatigued or stressed, or just, usually it's because you've taken that part of yourself that's the bird tasting and not the bird observing. If that makes sense. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Any thoughts, reflections? Does it ring a bell? Does it? Yeah, okay. Because it's good to get feedback like, am I making any sense at all? But Janice.
For me, when I go into meditation, there's like a bit of discomfort.
Yep.
Right? So, and then you talked about monkey brain.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Very good, Janice. Thank you. You're expressing a lot by just what you're saying. It does come as a great relief to know that there's an option to the monkey mind. And I worry that if people don't even have a word for that, and that's their reality, and how tiresome that can be to always be away from yourself, it's like you're in exile. And not only are you in exile, but you're being asked to do so much, and you're being beaten up, and you're lonely, and you're far from home. And I mean, I can sort of create a wonderful little novel here, but it comes right down to it that there is that. I want to say there's good to everything, and that even the monkey mind has its role, because it's sort of an active, curious little monkey. It jumps around and wants to check out everything. But if that's all you are, it'll drive you insane, and it'll zap you of your energy and your perspective, and your life is not your own. Final comment, I love the word authority and how it's so closely linked to author. And meditation is to allow you to come back into that observing position, which is where you become the author and the authority of your life. And if you don't have that role, someone else is the author of your life, not you. And so meditation allows you to take back that sense of, this is me. And it's a lovely, peaceful place to be. And I'm now the author of my life. And can make decisions that are my decisions, not one I'm responding to. I'm not living someone else's life. I'm at peace here, and I can make the decision. So I'm not surrendering my life to monkey mind. Okay, so we'll go just 5 more minutes, okay? The bell is ceremonious, you know. It's not meant to say, ooh, we're going into some place, and because mindfulness should be always happening and not, but it does. I always thought that after we've done a period of meditation, I hit it again, there shouldn't really be a need for transitioning back into your life. It should be sort of seamless. So in a way, I feel this is kind of silly to begin and end with a bell, but there is some ceremony to, like all good liturgy, of entering into a different space and a different time, and sort of that extent. A lot of commentary here today, but all right. But we'll do the bell, beginning and ending, 5 minutes. Oop. It's got a lovely sound anyways. So, a concluding story. Two thoughts, two concluding thoughts. One, I was thinking that meditation, another way of framing it is letting your guard down. And I think when we're out there, doing our lives, there's a kind of protective, and I think monkey mind is part of that, also something called the loyal soldier. There's always a part of us that is looking out, generally speaking, and what might be happening when you first sit down to meditate is that loyal soldier who's looking out for you, or the monkey mind is saying, no, don't do this. Don't let down. Stay sharp. You gotta. And there's something vulnerable and nice and relaxing to sort of sink into meditation, and think of it as just letting down your guard. Is another way of saying, oh yeah, this is what it feels like to let down your guard. So there's that, and then just the kind of more of a humorous story. Going into that Zen dojo years ago, I was maybe 18, 19, and it was out in the outskirts of Tokyo. And by the way, Japan culture I love. I love making sushi, and my stepmother is Japanese born, my sister-in-law is Japanese, my dad lived in Japan for years, so there's a fondness for Japan and Japanese culture, a real respect for it. But this is more of a sort of an interesting story. The Japanese can take themselves pretty seriously, so at this dojo, once I was instructed to, how to enter respectfully the meditation room and get up on my little cushion and settle in. He didn't tell me about this guy that, imagine I'm up on a sort of raised shelf with maybe 5 meditators, and then there's a little kind of, a little down hallway here, and then meditators on the other side. And there was a guy who would walk down this space between the meditators, and if you apparently felt like you were drifting away and needed to kind of get focused, you'd sort of catch that guy's attention by doing maybe a little ceremonious nod. He would then turn, and he has this bamboo stick, and there must be a name for it, and he would bow to you and you would bow to him, and then you'd lean over this way, and in a very quick flash, he'd go ba-bam twice, smack this on one side of your spine, and then on the other side, these two sort of soft areas on either side of your spine, and whack twice, and you could hear ba-bang, and boom, and then there would be a nice ceremonious thank you for that, and I guess the pain would allow you to be in your present moment without your mind drifting. I thought, whoa, that's a little extreme. So there are various ways you can, return to the present moment, and that was one of them. So with that, it's 6 o'clock, and our session is over, we could say. So you're welcome. Go into this night in peace to love and serve one another. I know, you sort of avert your head. No, I'm fine. I'm good.